sabay sa bundok na matarik. Parang sugat na lika na maapakan ng tinig. Diretso lang, kahit gano'ng kalupit, hindi ikot ang segundos na relo na pabalik. Tumingin ka sa liwanag na sa'yo'y papalapit. Makinig ka sa katotohanan na aming sinasabit. Madadapa ka minsan, kakayanin mo pa rin dahil ang puso biyuan niyo sa data ko sa bibig.
Nangangarap, biyuhin nyo, nagsisilap, sama-sama sa pagharap, kami busy, tayong mga kakaibang tuwid sa ating pag-ihati, subalit sa muling mawagi.
aside from that, the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act, or the Republic Act 9262, and the Republic Act 1131-3. So before anything else, let me introduce myself to my name is Lord J. Naval Medina, and I will be a host and moderator for this morning and this afternoon session. So I am from the PHDPA Department of the Jesse M. Robredo Institute of Governance and Development. And speaking of that, I would like to greet first all of our students from Bicol Universities. Magandang umaga, BUenos. Happy December 1st. Kaya naman sa lahat ng mga nanditong BUenos, kindly give us your heart reaction, wow reaction para makita ko naman that we are all interactive for today. Or pwede kayong mag-chat dito sa ating, of course, chat box ng good morning. So ilang araw na lang ay Pasko na, kaya naman I need your reaction please. We have here the different students, mas namapayapag ang AB Sociology students from the College of Social Sciences and Philosophy. And of course, marami din mga BSSW, our social workers from the CBEM, CSSP, BUSIT, of course, from the Bicol University, Open University, at mamaya po, iisa-isahin ko kayo lahat for the acknowledgement. So once again, thank you so much for your interaction with me. At mamaya po, mas lalo pa natin aabangan yung interaction nyo to our open forum together with our speakers. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's acknowledge for the presence of the following. Of course, we have here the Dean of the Bicol University, Open University, none other than we have Dr. Rameses M. Lorino, also the Director of the Center for Gender and Development, Dr. Noel R. Rafael. Of course, we have none other than the Dean of the Graduate School, we have Dr. Herbert B. Rosana, and the Vice President for Academic Affairs of Bicol University, our very own Dr. Amelia A. Dorosan. And we are still waiting for the Dean of the Bicol University College of Industrial Technology, Dr. Jonathan C. Arroco, and the SUC President 4 of Bicol University, Dr. Arnulfo M. Mascari. Now, at this point, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to request everyone to kindly isa-silent or i-mute natin ang ating mga sarili. Later on, mas lalo na, while our Yan, alright. So, pati ako na mute. Anyway, what I mean is that pati yung ating mga speaker kailangan makapagsalita sila ng sobra para at least may pagpaliwanag nila na maayos ang ating Safe Spaces Act or RA 1131-3. And of course, mamayang hapon, the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act or the 9262. I would like to reiterate, later on, right after our forum, I would like to request everyone for you to have the certificate of participation ay dapat makapag-fill out tayo ng evaluation link. And live na live din tayo sa Facebook page ng Bicol Universities. You can share and of course, you can share our link or you can share our Facebook Live sa inyong mga GCs, lalo na sa inyong mga classmates. Dahil napapanahon, relevant and timely ang ating mga topics for this afternoon. Now, at this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to start with our preliminaries. So, may request everyone or our guests to please bow our heads and feel the presence of the Lord and to be followed by the singing of the Philippine National Anthem.
Masin, patawarin mo kami sa samong mga kasalan. Siling na pinapatawan niya mo ang mga nagkakasala sa buyan. Sinare kami pagdaraan sa sugat, kundi iyagawa kami sa Kayang magiliw, pelas ng silanganan, hanap ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisilip. Sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit na baga, ang ilagang tulad, awit sa paglayang minamahal. Pag-islap ng matawat mo'y tagumpay na naniningig. Ang bituin at araw niya, kailan pa may magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng ating pagsinta mo'y langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pamay malapit ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Thank you so much once again. Now we're here live for our Zoom video conference and the Facebook Live of Bicol University for our forum, none other than for the Safe Spaces Act or Republic Act 1131-3 and Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children or RA 9262. So at this point, before we move on and we go to the proper of our forum, we're going to have first the opening remarks. Now, to give us the opening remarks for today, may I request the ever-dynamic Dean of the Bicol University Open University, none other than Dr. Rameses Ram M. Lorino. Sir, magandang umaga po.
Thank you, Sir Flored. To our University President, Dr. Arnulfo M. Mascareñas, to our ever-dynamic Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Amelia A. Dorostan, other Vice Presidents, our colleagues, Dr. Jonathan Arroco, the Dean of the College of Industrial Technology, Dr. Herbert Rosana, the Dean of the Graduate School, and of course, the ever-dynamic Director of the Center for Gender and Development, Dr. Noel Rafer, to our resource persons that will be introduced later, LGU officials, government servants, uniformed men and women, faculty and students, especially our very own Bicol University, other SUCs and higher education institutions, friends, guests, gentlemen and ladies, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. These days, we observe the 18-day campaign to end violence against women with the theme United for Above Free Philippines. And part of it is our Forum on Safe Spaces Act, an anti-violence against women and their children, to be presented by our very knowledgeable resource persons. This campaign supports the Philippine government's goal of protecting the human rights of women and girls by upholding its commitment to address all forms of gender-based violence as enshrined in the 1987 Philippine Constitution. With this, I welcome you all to this forum and maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.
Very well said. Thank you so much once again to the Dean of the Bicol University, Open University, Sir Ramesses M. Lorino. Let's give him virtual clap, everyone. Thank you so much, sir, for that napakagandang mensahe. Now, at this point, let's hear some inspirational message from our guests and, of course, the officials of Bicol University. Let's start with our gender and development champion, or GAD champion, none other than the director of the Center for Gender and Development. We have Dr. Noel Araper. Good morning.
Good morning po. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much po, Sir Flored. To our distinguished resource persons who will be introduced further later on. Attorney Maria Cleofi Jetty C. Sandoval from the Ateneo de Manila School of Law, an empowered but humble person who drafted the very Magna Carta of the Women Cases Act. Our very own Attorney Glenn Ian P. Parcival of the Parcival Law Office and member of the BU College of Law. Our Bicol University officials, especially to our vice presidents. We have here our Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Amelia A. Dorosan, our deans and directors, personnel, the associate deans and directors as well present today. Of course, headed by our SUP Dynamic SUP President 4, Dr. Arnulfo M. Mascarenhas, the BU GAD coordinators from the different colleges and units, dearest friends, students, and invited guests, warmest greetings from the Center for Gender and Development of Bicol University. My heartfelt gratitude to all of you who gave time and effort to join us today, and most especially to our honorable guests and organizers of this forum. Of course, the BU Graduate School, the BAG Student Council, Open University, and the College of Industrial Technology, and its respective heads, Dr. Rosana, Mr. Flored Medina of the BAG Student Council, Dr. Ramesses M. Lorino, and Dr. Jonathan Arroco, and of course, the very active GAD coordinator of the BAGS and OU, Dr. Roldan Cabiles. This activity is part of the Bicol University community and the Center for Gender Development with the said hosts or organizers in observing po the campaign against violence against women and children, or anti-VAUSI, as mandated by the Philippine government through the Philippine Commission on Women, or the PCW. Friends, violence against women and children, as well as that of men, and of course of the members of the LGBTQIA+, should be stopped at all costs, pursuant to the Magna Carta of Women and other international, national, and local mandates. As such, I'm not saying that said violence is happening in the university. Maybe this observance po would make us further be aware of this advocacy, be real advocates against it, instead of possible perpetrators, at such kind of violence may take various forms. Perhaps without being much aware of it, even po our simple misogynistic, homophobic, and transphobic remarks to our students, co-teachers, and fellow workers are already considered as psychosocial emotional violence in which we, professionals or licensed teachers, may cost our very dear licenses po. In any case, in the interest of time and to give way to our other speakers, much more to our honored guest talks, I now bid all of you SIGAD's warmest and utmost greetings and assurance of its unwavering pursuit for any God-related advocacy work and activities. A round of applause, please, for all of us here, to the organizers, and to our esteemed guest speakers. Have a great day, everyone.
Once again, thank you so much to our director for the Center for Gender and Development, Dr. Noel Arafert. Thank you so much for that wonderful message. Now, at this point, let us hear now the message, the Dean of the Bicol University Graduate School. We have the ever active Dr. Herbert B. Rosana. Sir, good morning.
Okay, good morning everyone, and good morning to especially to the officials of Bicol University headed by our president, Dr. Arnulfo M. Mascareñas, to the Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Ami Dorosan, to the Dean of the BOU, Dr. Ramesses M. Lorino, and to the Dean of BUSIT, Dr. Jonathan Arroco. And especially to all our students, and especially those who are following us in the social media. And I thank the GAD coordinator and the GAD department of the Bicol University Graduate School and the combined with BUOU for coming up with this activity. I know that this Safe Spaces Act has been enacted several years ago, and I think this is part of the evolution of the gender and development, because all of this, whatever innovation, especially in terms of law is concerned, evolves from a deeper value. That's why we say that the law is only an instrument, but beyond this instrument, there is an important value, which is the respect for the human dignity. Because when we say Safe Spaces Act, because usually when our spaces are not respected, it is a sign of, shall we say, a lack of respect for human dignity. It is easy to implement the law. It is easy to penalize people for violating the law. And sometimes it is painful. But this pain could be avoided if we make ourselves aware of the value of each and every human being. Because if we respect the value of each and every human being, there will be no need for the law. That's why even if we read the Bible, in the Bible it says that the law is our school teacher. Kumbaga kasi dun sa Bible, sa history, makita natin na yung mga Hudyo, they have a deep emphasis on the law. Pero sabi sa kanila ni Jesus Christ, the law, ni St. Paul, the law is only your school teacher because it is supposed to lead you to something which is deeper, a deeper understanding of a deeper value. Kaya napakahalaga po itong addition po ito sa plethora of human rights law, itong Safe Spaces Act. Kasi tayo mga Pilipino, culturally, sometimes we are sociable, we are open, and sometimes we do not know how to delineate what is private and what is what belongs to us. Kumbaga, because of that commonality, nakakalimutan natin yung pagrespeto sa ibang tao. Like for example, how they would like to act, how would like to express themselves. These are things. These are examples of spaces. Yung spaces natin, hindi lang siya physical space, kundi even the psychological and sociological space natin. Halimbawa, the way I would like to arrange my halimbawa yung sa opisina, for example, may mga nilalagay ka doon sa sa space mo to make it meaningful. Sometimes people cannot tolerate it, di ba? Because maybe of their own biases. Kasi may mga biases tayo, and we have to overcome these biases and to look at people objectively, because it is sabi nga doon, it's better that we put ourselves in the shoes of another so that we will understand. Pareho din ito sa sa tinatawag natin sa conflict resolution. If you are a mediator to a conflict, you should be able to teach both parties to put themselves in the shoes of each other, because that's the only way for them to understand each other, because without it there will be no breakthrough in communication. So in the same way, respecting the spaces of others is also a way of enhancing our human dignity. So yung minsan bagay yung mga jokes natin, minsan hindi natin na-realize na yung mga jokes natin are actually violating the dignity of the other person. You are already creating pressure on another person. Nag-create ka na ini-stress mo na yung ibang tao unnecessarily. And may yun. Pag na-stress mo ang isang tao, kumbaga sa civil law, sa tawag yan? Sa batas natin, yung civil law, may ano yan, parang may penalty din yun when when you put a stress on another person psychologically. Although you do not inflict physical harm, but you create trouble for that person. And I think this is a very laudable activity, and I hope that this will mabuksan ang ating mga pag-intindi, mga kaisipan. Minsan kailangan ulit-ulitin natin kasi matagal na natin ito naririnig, pero hindi pa rin natin natututunan. Sometimes the only way for us to know it, to learn it, is actually to repeat and repeat, and maybe until such a time na we become aware of this important, and especially yung pag-avoid ng violence against women and children, kasi nga sila yung mga vulnerable sector when it comes to physical violence and psychological And I hope that we can promote a society which is less violent, kasi ang violence po hindi lang sa gawa, sometimes sa pananalita natin, sometimes yung mga words natin. So just remember, for example, yung mga misogynistic statement ng mga leaders natin, mga political leaders, may implications yun. Like for example, di ba yung mga political leaders natin say, pag nanlaban ngaya, patayin, di ba? That's a violent word. These are violent words, and these are not just simple words, because people listen to it, they believe on it, they act on it, and we know the repercussions of such words. So ito ang dapat na awareness na ma-develop sa atin, yung how to develop respect for human dignity and to avoid violence. Kaya nga minsan pag di ba yung concept of non-violence, pag iniisip ko minsan pag kumakain, parang ayoko nang kumain ng karne, di ba? Kasi minsan nakikita ko yung mga hayop, how they are being transported, how they are being treated. Sabi ko, what kind of pain they are inflicting on these animals, and here I am eating the flesh of these animals, and I think I am contributing to the pain and violence of other creatures. So I don't know, pero ito lang, ito, mga kaisipan ko lang ito, na probably we can think of it, and then maybe we will appreciate also the wisdom of our resource person. So kailangan i-appreciate din natin sila because of their experience and knowledge. They'll be able to enrich our experience and our understanding of this matter. So thank you very much, God, Gender and Development, and we hope that we can have activities more like this, and probably we can move from mag-evolve yung ating mga activities, and then to provide more awareness, lalong-lalo na sa atin na mga matatanda na, and sometimes kailangan i-remind tayo with that kind of So thank you very much, my friends, and have a nice day.
Thank you so much once again to the Dean of the Bicol University Graduate School, Dr. Herbert B. Rosana. Now we are going to hear another message from another dean, but this time from the Bicol University College of Industrial Technology of BUSIT. We have Dr. Jonathan C. Arroco. Sir, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Sir Flored. Greetings of respect to all who are present in this virtual forum, especially to our distinguished resource persons, of course, to our university president, Dr. Arnulfo M. Mascarenhas, our Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Amelia Durosan, the other Vice Presidents, the Director of the Center for Gender and Development, Dr. Noel Refer, the Deans of the Graduate School, Dr. Herbert Rosana, and the Open University, Dr. Rameses Lorino, the coordinators of gender development from the host colleges, to other guests present in this Zoom meeting, a blessed day to all of you. When I was invited to give an inspirational message, I said, okay, right away, knowing that one of the topic is anti-violence against women and their children, or RA 9262. But I was wondering what Safe Spaces is in the first instance. So I have to ask Mr. Google and Voila. It's RA 11313, or the Bawal Bastos Act law. Friends, last night my wife and I strolled the Washington Drive, the street in Legazpi City, and we found it very peaceful. But sometimes also I saw a lot of policemen and uniformed personnel in the streets. And immediately I think that maybe there is something going on. Perhaps they are after the safety of a VIP. Last week, we were in the streets of Belgium, and it was very peaceful, but there are no police officers in the streets. Our Belgian companions said that the absence of police means that the streets are safer. I just said, well, that's just a physical space. Today, I actually asked myself, is there really a safe space for everyone? Are the classrooms, for instance, in Bicol University, a safe space? What about the offices and the streets in general? And what about the social media? Or the famous Bicol University Freedom Wall? An author said, social media is not a safe space. I don't know if you will agree or disagree with that. But I realized that safe spaces does not only refer to physical, but also virtual spaces. In fact, I am thinking that there are more abuses in the social media because people can virtually hide their identities and say whatever they like. You know what I mean? Because perhaps some of us are victims of these abuses. Therefore, my dear friends, I believe that this forum today will enlighten all of us, perhaps not only to know our rights, but also for us to be part in creating safe spaces in our classrooms, work, public spaces, in the virtual world, and in the virtual world of social media. A space where everyone is welcome and respected, regardless of race, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, identity, gender identity, and expression. So let us all be the safe space for our own colleagues, for our students, for our own people. So friends, finally, I would like to express my support and congratulate the organizers of this forum as I enjoin everyone to learn new insights and practice the learnings we may acquire. Thank you all very much. Diyos mabalos po sa Indogabos. Have a pleasant day, everyone.
Diyos mabalos man po sa ating Dean of the Bicol University College of Industrial Technology, Dr. Jonathan C. Aroco. Now, this time, we are going to hear another inspirational message to be given to us by the Vice President for Academic Affairs of Bicol University, Dr. Amelia A. Dorosan. Ma'am, magandang umaga po.
Magandang umaga. Thank you very much, Sir Flored. And I would like to express first my appreciation for this event, the Forum on Anti-VAUSI and Safe Spaces. And I would like to congratulate also of course, our CGAD champion, our GAD champion, Dr. Noel Rafer. Thank you, sir, for always being there. You are an inspiration in Bicol University in terms of gender and development. And you have actually primed BU sa gender and development. Thank you very much, sir. Also, I would like to greet, of course, our deans who are here with us today. The Dean of Open University, Dr. Ram Lorino. Sir, good morning. And Dr. Herbert Rosana, the Dean of BAGS. And thank you, Dr. Jonathan Aroco, the Dean of BUSIT. And all those directors who are present here with us, I see Janessa, and I think the rest are here. Our beloved faculty members, associate deans and directors, if there are, of course, siyempre, our University President, Dr. Noli Mascareñas, who is very busy at this time. And most importantly, our honored guests for allowing us to have their precious time together with the rest of our students. And most importantly, our beloved students of Bicol University, thank you very much for inviting me here today. You know, the topic that we have today is dear to my heart. Why? Because we love women and children. Hindi lang women and children. Of course, we have to love everybody. Now, I have some few thoughts about today's forum, and I hope that it will open up avenues for us to be an inspiration regarding the very important topic that will be discussed today. Yesterday, I think I went to Irusin with my husband, and we were discussing along the way, and I realized that men's laws actually come from the laws of God or the laws of nature. And ano ang pinaka basic na law na kung saan nanggagaling yung anti-vowsy? Galing po ito doon sa dalawang pinaka-importanting laws. Love God above all and love thy neighbor as thyself. So, naalala ko tuloy yung magandang primary song that we have in the church. Yung song na, kindness begins with me. It says, I want to be kind to everyone, for that is right, you see. For that is right, you see. And I say to myself, remember this, kindness begins with me. Of course, kindness begets love. So my dear friends, I really am grateful for this event. We have 154 all in all today. And we hope from each of these 154 will come a difference. And each of us will become an influence for good so that we can have safe spaces and we can sow love and shun violence. Not only for women and children. Of course, they are important. We are all important in the eyes of our Heavenly Father. So, may mga nabasa akong mga thoughts about anti-vowsy. Pero ang pinaka-essence dito, anong pwede natin gawin as an individual? Well, as an institution, of course, we are doing an education and awareness program sa anti-vowsy and safe spaces. That's why I would like to really appreciate you for coming up with this forum. And ano ang mga kailangan natin? Of course, we need love, we need respect, we need equality, we need positive attitude towards others. Now, any type of violence is never okay. Any type of violence is never okay. So even if we do it jokingly, if there are words that will come from our mouth that will offend others, to me, it's a form of violence. So laws, of course, that will be discussed today. Hindi ako masyadong familiar sa mga laws, pero hopefully with this forum, you will be made more aware, we will be made more aware about the laws written by man and the laws from God that will protect women, children, and all of us from any form of discrimination and violence. So education is the beginning. And to me, education comes or should begin in the home so that the role of the family where each of us belong is very important and is a very logical place to begin prevention of any form of violence. So whatever behavior we have at home, of course, we will bring them out when we go out of our respective homes. So my dear students, faculty members, officials of Bicol University, again, let me express my gratitude for this forum, and we hope that after we are done with the forum, each of us will become an influence for good and each of us will fill our hearts with love that comes from God that we share to all of God's children. So with this, thank you very much and good morning.
Once again, thank you so much. Let's give virtual clap to our Vice President for Academic Affairs of Bicol University, Dr. Amelia A. Dorosan. Once again, thank you so much, ma'am, for that very kind and at the same time wonderful message for everyone. Really inspirational. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to greet all of our participants. We have so far 159 participants on Zoom, and in our Facebook Live, meron din tayong maraming viewers. So as far as I see, we have here 38 or almost 50 viewers. And again, I am encouraging everyone to kindly share our Facebook Live ng Bicol University dito sa ating Zoom or dito sa ating mga GCs ng iyong mga classmates para marami tayong mabigyan na pagkakataon na marinig at matuto kung ano nga ba yung ating pag-uusapan. Once again, we're here live to our Zoom video conference. This is for the Forum on Safe Spaces Act or RA 11313 and the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act or RA 9262. Once again, this forum is brought to us by the Bicol University Graduate School and at the same time in cooperation with the Center for Gender and Development, Bicol University Open University, the Bicol University College of Industrial Technology, and the Bicol University Graduate School Student Council. And once again, I am Floyd and ako po makakasama niyo for today and later on. And syempre, acknowledgement lang, I would like to greet all the faculty members of the Bicol University Graduate School. Of course, from the Open University, I can see Ma'am Melinda, Dr. Jane Mascareñas, and also I would like to say hi to my classmates to the PHDPA. Nandito rin po sila. And also to my co-officers of the BUGSSC. Andito rin sila. Mamaya po, iisa-isayin ko pa rin ang ating mga other participants na nagbigay ng oras na para matuto dahil napapanahon po ito because we are celebrating our none other than the Anti-VAUC from November 25 to December 12. So it's about time for us to repeat, refresh, and to listen to our resource speakers. And speaking of resource speakers, hindi ko na rin po patatagalin pa because I know everyone are now excited to have our first topic. So ladies and gentlemen, our first speaker, or should I say Attorney Sandoval, is one who drafted the MCW of the Philippines. And of course, she's one of the faculty members of the Ateneo School of Law in the Ateneo de Manila University. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big round of applause or visual clap to our first speaker to tackle the Safe Spaces Act or RA 11313, we have Attorney Maria Cleofe Getty C. Sandoval. Ma'am, Attorney, magandang umaga and welcome to Bicol University.
Thank you very much. Good morning, and I hope you can hear me well.
Yes,
Loud
good
and clear,
morning,
ma'am.
attorney.
Good morning, Dr. Noel. Hi. Good morning to everyone, to the officials of Bicol University. Thank you very much for inviting me and allowing me to share your celebration of the 18-day campaign against violence against women. Actually, in other countries, this celebration is only 16 days, but in the Philippines, we have 18 days from November 25 to December 12 to celebrate or well, not celebrate, but really understand what we can do. This is a special time for all of us to have a special focus on violence against women, but more importantly, as one of our leaders, as one of our officers said, what is more important is for us to be able not only to know, but to be able to discuss what we can do about it, to be able to stop it, to be able to prevent it from happening, especially in our university. So without further ado, let me share my screen. But before that, allow me to apologize in advance if I suddenly get cut off. My connection has always been bad, so my experience is I always get cut off in the middle of my lecture. So please Please excuse me if that happens, and please allow me to have some time just to return, no, to the room. Okay. So am I sharing right now? You can see my screen right now? Okay. Hindi naman, naka-presentation ano naman ako, no? You can see the next slide. Tama ba?
Yes po.
Okay, sige, sige. Thank you very much. Okay. So, really the topic that we're going to talk about today is sexual harassment, no? There are several laws already, and our focus as of course are the laws that are present right now on how to address this type of violence against women. So for this morning, for the next 2 hours or so, all of us were born to a particular family, and that particular family has a concept on what a boy or a girl should be, because when someone is born, based on the genitalia of the person, one is a boy or a girl, no? So upon seeing that baby, the father, the mother, or the relatives of that baby already has an inkling on what they think that child should be, how that child should act, no? And I don't know how many of you here are psychologists or psych majors, or but in some psychology books, they say that children are socialized, no, in 4 ways, no, upon birth, no, and among others, it as the baby is growing, you associate words to the baby. So you would associate strong boy to a boy and pretty girl to a girl. And then later on, you will give the appropriate toys, regardless of the stage or the age of the baby. For as long as the baby is a boy, then you will give that boy something related to, activities related outside, no? So the boys would have trucks, the boys would have airplanes, the boys would have balls. The girls would have something that relates to activities inside the house, no? So the girls would receive cooking utensils, and so we try to, as early as they're young, we try to differentiate already, no? In terms of the words, in terms of the toys, and later on in terms of the activities that we teach them or we allow them to do. So boys would be allowed to run off, girls no, because hindi ka pwede magkapeklat, you should have good legs, etc., etc. This socialization, as mentioned already in our opening, no, begins in the home but extends outside. So when you go to school, I don't know how many of you here are parents, and how many of you here had encountered problems in the schools, especially if your child is in grade school. I would have friends really that when they see the assignments of their kids, association, for example, of jobs, no, and who is a police officer, who is a teacher, and you would associate it with a woman or a male or a female. I have a friend who went to the school of the child questioning this, because ang tinuturo niya sa anak niya, walang isang sagot dyan, no? Both of them can have that job, no? But of course, the teacher would have a right and wrong answer. So the mother went to the school and talked to the teacher, telling the teacher, you should not teach my child that a police should only be a man and a teacher should only be a woman, no? So they had some discussion about that, no? Of course, the second problem that she had would be uniform. The girl, her daughter, would not want to wear skirts. Skirts would be the uniform. The daughter would want to wear pants, and pants are for boys. So again, she went back to the school, again arguing with the administration why they would direct, or why they would order, no, a particular uniform for a particular sex, when maybe that child is not comfortable wearing that, no? So in other words,
Recording in progress.
we go to school, we go to our church, we go to media, we go to, and of course the laws, as we will see later on, and we will see that this type of socialization, how society thinks men and women should be, and heaven forbid that you're LGBT, because society would now say, you don't belong with any of this, then you're then there must be something wrong with you, no? So that's the analysis, and therefore the more marginalized you become, right? So so men and women in our society, regardless of your gender orientation or gender expression, regardless, would be stereotyped, no, or would be placed in a particular box and would be expected to act accordingly. And when you do not act according to how society expects you to act, when you do not walk the narrow, the straight path, as it were, no, then biases begin, right? Now, when we do gender training, we don't necessarily say, our parents are wrong or our parents do not know any better. No, they were also brought up that way. They were also raised in a community, in a society that thought that way. And therefore, what we're trying to do right now is trying to understand how our society has evolved, no? And how treatment of men and women in our society also has evolved. But for gender studies, we try now to analyze the problems that arise based on these types of stereotyping, based on these types of as it were, putting people in a box, no? And that you should only move within the box and you cannot move outside of your box. Otherwise, you're treated as not normal, no? If you're outside of your box, no? So these types of gender biases brings about different forms of discrimination. Discrimination when you go to work, such that men and women would either be expected to work only certain types of jobs, no? And if you work in a job that is not expected of you, then again you're treated as not normal, as it were. So we call that marginalization, where sexual harassment actually belongs, because many forms of sexual harassment happens in the workplace, no? But we see that as well in the decision makers, no, that we have. Who are you expected to make decisions? We celebrate the first woman doctor, the first woman pilot, because, as it were, they're not expected to shine. They're not but we don't celebrate the first man doctor, the first man pilot, because again, they're expected to be that. And therefore, when you find a woman doing that, then the woman is treated extraordinarily, and you celebrate them, no? So that comes from a certain perspective of what women can do or not do, right? So one of the manifestations of this discrimination is violence against women. And later on, we will define what violence against women means, no? But all I'm just saying is this analysis of the problem on why gender biases exist or why gender discrimination exists is this type of analysis of the type of communities or the type of society. And we can go historical here. We can look particularly at the Philippines and how, for example, pre-Hispanic, Hispanic, American, and Japanese influences have contributed to the gender biases that we have, no, against women. We also say that these biases or this discrimination are not, as I have said in the beginning, are not on a case-to-case basis, but this happens systematically. So this has been happening since, well, of course, more so when Spain came, no, and Spain imposed all the rules where coming from Europe, where men are more superior, no, but and this was integrated into our communities and into our ways of thinking up to now, no? So this type of analysis was accepted by the global community, by the international community. And so they say, okay, if this is the problem that we have, if this is how communities, societies look at women, of course, there are different manifestations, but the bottom line is there is discrimination. Women are seen as less powerful, to have less rights, etc., than men. Then the global community said, we should therefore come together and have a look and have also a global discussion and a global understanding of the problem. No, so I begin here. Why? Because as mentioned earlier in our opening, no, laws are here because laws are supposed to respond to a particular concern. Laws are supposed to provide order because there is some type of issue or some type of problem on the subject matter that that law wants to address. There are laws that you find useless already because maybe the problem that law wants to solve is no longer relevant, no? So there are laws that are irrelevant nowadays. So laws should be relevant because laws are supposed to respond to specific concerns. Now, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to ask ourselves whether or not the law that we're going to study in a while, whether that responds to this problem. Is this law that we're going to address later on responsive to this analysis, to this problem that I showed you or that I just explained to you just now, no? So that's what we're going to check, no? Because if that law is not responsive, then you have to change it, no, to make it responsive. Otherwise, this situation will persist. And our agenda, our intention is to respond, is to remove these biases so that society will not treat men and women differently or LGBTs differently, but would look at all of us as just human beings with the same dignity and the same rights, right? So that's what we want to happen. Okay. So what we want to understand now is what are now the responses? If that is the problem, it's gender bias, gender discrimination is the problem. What now has the global community come to be able to understand what it means, what the problem means, and more importantly, understand what the solutions are, no? And what the solutions mean. Globally at first, but locally eventually, meaning locally per country, no? And to a smaller degree per local community of that country, no? So we begin with and so maybe you ask yourself, why am I giving you all of these lectures when my topic is just the law? For most of us, maybe all of us here in the room, we can all read, no? And it's very easy for us to read the law. Of course, some laws are more confusing than others, but it's easy for all of us to read, right? And if I give you the copy of the law and I give you some time to read it, then maybe you'll be able to understand what it means. But maybe there'll be questions lingering, no, in your minds, no? So what I'm trying to do right now is to answer those lingering questions so that when you read the law, you'd be able to understand what it means. Because unlike other laws that are more straightforward, tax laws, for example, commercial laws, no? These are straightforward and easy to understand and you don't have any problems. When you talk about a social legislation like agrarian reform, like laws for labor, for workers, and laws for women, sometimes there are questions that come to your mind where you don't find necessarily the answer in the letter of the law, but the answer is in the framework of the law or the intent of the law, right? So my preliminary discussion for 30 minutes or so would refer to the framework of the law or why the law is there in the first place. So that when you go about reading the law, then you'd be able to understand. Or when you meet someone questioning the law, then you'd be able to answer. You'd be able to answer questions like, unfair naman yan, bakit pambabae lang? Paano naman kaming mga lalaki na aapirin naman kami? When you go to anti-violence against women later, no, in the afternoon, when you talk about 9262, people will say, the married men would say, paano naman yung mga lalaki na nabubugbog din? Kawawa naman, unfair naman yan, no? So, all of these questions, no, about social legislations, no, I hope this preliminary discussion, the first part of my lecture, would be able to answer all of us, would be able to give you the context on what it wants to address and why you have that kind of law as a response, no? And for us to be able to understand why laws on sexual harassment are there, why laws on anti-violence against women are there, why laws on anti-trafficking are there or anti-rape are there, we have to understand the concept of women's rights are human rights. No, as mentioned earlier, no, all of us have dignity and all of us have human rights. But it took a while from the declaration of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1949. It took a while for the global community to address or to say specifically that, yes, women's rights are part of these human rights, because in the beginning, it's just men. And they say, when you talk about men or you talk about human beings, men and women na yan. The women fought for the concept that no, you have to address or you have to specifically mention women. Otherwise, if you don't mention them, they're not in your consciousness, no? So from 1949, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, until 1993 in the Vienna Convention, in the Vienna Conference on Human Rights in 1993, it was only then in 1993 that the Vienna Declaration came up with a verbalized recognition that yes, women's rights are human rights. No? Okay. And when we talk about women's rights as human rights, then we have to understand what discrimination against women means, because discrimination against women is a violation of these rights, no? As well as gender-based violence and violence against women. So first, we talk about what discrimination means. No? So again, we go historically. 1949, UDHR, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. From 1949, in the international community, in the global community, women and supporters to women's agenda, women's causes, started to discuss the need to have a document that specifically recognizes rights of women. No? It cannot just be UDHR, because UDHR misses out on some details, okay? And so it's very important. While UDHR, of course, should be for women also, but there are specific situations that are unique to women's experiences that needed to be verbalized or needed to be categorically stated. No? And so therefore, you have this document eventually that is called Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women in 1979, where eventually it enumerates rights of women. It's the document is otherwise known as the Bill of Rights for Women, International Bill of Rights. And the Philippines signed this document. We ratified this in 1981. So it's a treaty that is ratified by 2/3 of our Senate. And we have since then also ratified the optional protocol. What is the optional protocol? It's an agreement that we will report our implementation on the treaty. So the Philippines signed the optional protocol, and every 4 years henceforth, we have been reporting. And I think we are due to report next year, no? If I'm not mistaken, on CEDAW. So we report every 4 years. What do we report? What are the actions that the Philippines has undertaken to be able to implement CEDAW? Basically, that's what the report contains, no? So it will contain all the laws, all the programs, all the innovations, etc., that is aimed to address discrimination. But CEDAW also gives us the important principles that we need to understand, and one of which is really, so of course it defines what discrimination means, no? But more importantly, it gives us a definition of what gender equality means. If you are asked, what do you mean by gender equality? Define gender equality. We have our own definition of gender equality. But to be able to find the definition of gender equality, you look at CEDAW. And CEDAW tells us that what we're looking for gender equality is substantive equality. What do you mean by that? That is equality de jure, meaning equality in law, and equality de facto, meaning equality in fact. So you are not only content with having equality in law, having laws that purports equality, but these laws must be realized in actual lives of women. In what area? In how we have access, in how we have opportunities, and eventually how it changes the lives of women. Whether or not in the course of implementing these laws, whether or not this changes lives of women, erases discrimination, addresses discrimination, no? Eliminates discrimination, and provides women equal opportunity, equal access, equal treatment. No? So that's a definition of substantive equality or gender equality, as opposed to gender equity. No? Some countries would only go as far as gender equity is concerned, no? Because they do not believe in gender equality. What we're saying here is no, we have to work towards gender equality, meaning we have to work towards, at the end of the whole experience, we have to check. If you're looking for observable indicators of success, you have to check whether or not the lives of women have changed, whether or not the problems of women in terms of discrimination have been addressed by the policies that you have. So it's not enough that you write it down. What you have written down should be made effective, in short. So that's what CEDAW wants us to do. From CEDAW, now, of course, the document is a convention, and you cannot, if you want in time, you want to improve, you cannot just go back to the document, no? So what happens is there are what are called general resolutions. It's like your IRR. It's like your implementing rules and regulations, which the CEDAW, the committee, issues from time to time to address particular concerns of women. So you have a GR, a general resolution on education, a general resolution on political participation, which are the subject matter of CEDAW. But one of the GRs, one of the general resolutions, would address violence against women. So you look at GR 1919, which was issued in 1992, and eventually GR 35, General Resolution 35, which was issued in 2017. What does all of these GRs tell us? GR 19 defines what gender-based violence means. No? Gender-based violence is a form of discrimination which disproportionately affects women. In other words, this is the type of violence that is directed against a woman simply because she is a woman. It doesn't happen. This is not the type of violence that happens indiscriminately to people. No? For example, robbery. No? Robbery is not a gender-based violence because everyone can be robbed, right? But rape is gender-based because rape is directed towards a woman. And for what reason? That it's not because that woman is beautiful, not because that woman is sexy, but because she's a woman. And whatever age, whatever social status, it can happen simply because. So there are offenses, there are types of violence that are directed to women, may happen to women simply because they are women, right? It may happen to men as well, but the proportion of victims is disproportionately against women. And so that's why your response is to address that disproportion. So you have anti-violence against women and their children law that addresses women because the VAUSI, the type of crime that is described there, disproportionately affects women. So while you may have men also that are affected by it, the proportion of those who experience that is not the same. It is the same as sexual harassment. Sexual harassment may also happen to men, but again, the proportion on how many will be affected is disproportionately women than men. And so that is what we mean by gender-based violence. In 1993, the CEDAW, the United Nations, further clarified that we talk about violence against women particularly in 3 areas, happening in 3 areas. Happening in the family. This is where wife battering or spousal battering or intimate partner battering comes in. And other forms of violence against women, where if you look at this enumeration, no, you will see, for example, dowry-related violence or female genital mutilation that may not be as prevalent in the Philippines. No, dowry-related violence is violence against women in those jurisdictions, in those cultures where it's the woman's family that would provide dowry to the man, to the betrothed. No, and if you're poor, then it's a problem for the family of the women. And in these cultures, women should be married, no? These are cultures where if you're an unmarried woman at a certain age, and you're not married, then you're treated second class, no? And you're a problem to the family if you're not married, because who's going to take care of you? Because it should be men who will take care of you, no? So that kind of thinking. And so therefore, they should marry off the women in the family. And so upon reaching marital age, marrying age, and they don't have money or properties to be given as dowry, then it's a problem. It results to violence. No. The other one would be female genital mutilation, which is particularly in the African countries, no, where this is the rite of passage of women. No? So if we have circumcision here for the men, this is the circumcision for women. So we don't have that. But even if we don't have all of these forms of violence against women in our family, it doesn't make the Philippines any better, or the Filipino women any better than those women that are found in these cultures. No, we are all on the same boat, as it were, right? The other form of violence against women is one that happens in the general community, where sexual harassment is a part of, no, where everywhere you go, it may happen to you, no, outside. No? And the third one would be the type of sexual violence that are perpetrated by the state, especially in times of armed conflict, where sexual harassment is made a weapon of war, right? Okay. Now, CEDAW is your framework, is your general rights. You have to break down the principles in CEDAW into actionable points. In other words, help the member states that signed on to CEDAW to understand how do they go about implementing CEDAW. And in 1995, the Conference on Women came up in Beijing, that happened in Beijing, came up with 12 priority areas, one of which is violence against women, number 4, if you will see. If you unpack, if you open this, no, you will find that under number 4, there are lists of things to do for the state. So the state will legislate, the state will have programs, the state, etc., etc. That helps the state go back to their own and starts planning. And so therefore, you will have now, after Beijing, you will have the Philippine Commission on Women going back and then starting to plan what the rest of the country should do to be able to address violence against women. So that is what's happening here. No? From the international documents that we signed on, we now interpret. Okay? We now interpret it, and it becomes now part of our laws coming from our Constitution in Article 2, Section 14, where there is a gender provision for the first time, no? The third constitution now has a gender provision coming from the language of CEDAW and coming from the language of Beijing Platform for Action. So that is how the international documents are translated into local documents to be able to respond, and eventually the law that we will discuss, eventually to respond to the problem which I showed you, the first diagram that I showed you. No? So that is how the analysis of the problem on sexual harassment went on. This is the framework that is being carried on or being used by the international community and by the by those that are foremost in trying to understand how globally the problem can be solved, no? Because you cannot solve this on an individual basis, right? So no matter what we do here in our country, we send our men and women, Filipino men and women, go out of the country. And so if the countries that they will go to, do not have or do not share the same analysis or has a different way of looking at how men and women should be, then our men and women will end up getting abused in those countries. And so the international community have to move accordingly, no, to be able to solve the problem that are faced globally, although in different manifestations, right? So I hope that addresses or settles the why we have the law, right? Before going into the language of the law. Now we move into understanding sexual harassment, right? What is it? Ano ba yun? Ano ba yung tinatawag mong sexual harassment? Okay. Okay. First of all, we need to understand that there are two major elements when we talk about sexual harassment, right? First, it is unwanted. And second, it is of a sexual nature. So, if you are looking at whether or not what is committed is sexual harassment, you have to check first whether or not the act or what happened or is unwanted. Okay? Uninvited, unwanted. Hindi naman gusto. Hindi ginusto, hindi hiningi, pero ginawa. The second, the nature of the act refers to the sexuality of the person, right? The person, the gender identity, the gender expression, the sexuality of the person, right? So those are the two main elements. If you are a member of the Committee on Investigation and Decorum, these are the elements that you will look for when you investigate. Was the act unwanted and what is the nature of the act? What are the forms? It can be verbal, it can be physical, it can be nonverbal, it can be visual. Verbal is directly told you, right? You're a professor, you directly tell your student, okay? You know, you're having bad grades in my class, but you know, we can go out and talk about this, no? If you want to understand what my class, what I want to teach you, you can go out with me, and so that's direct. Physical is touching, right? Pinching, touching. So if you have students here who are fond of embracing, are fond of touching, are fond of pinching, are fond of making unwanted touching, no? Unwanted physical acts. No? Non-verbal would be looking. And visual would be if posters would, pictures, words would just be posted up. Walang sinasabi pero nakaka-harass yung mga signs. Those who are harassed are generally those that are young, that do not have control. Sexual harassment really is an issue of who has control, okay? As well as other forms of violence against women. It is done to you because this person who's doing this to you can control the situation. Usually these are those that are already in power, right? But so therefore, when you do sexual harassment trainings, no, there is a whole session on understanding power. Power is not only because of position, economic, social, but power is because of gender. And the power in gender comes from the whole analysis that I showed you, the diagram. Okay? So you may be poor, you may be uneducated, but you're a man, and therefore that is power. Okay? And those who are harassers are usually, as I said, those who have power, and usually, generally men. Not at all times, yes, but generally men. Especially in the workplace, there are two types. You can have a category that is called quid pro quo, or even in schools, no, where a favor is asked, no. if you will give me a sexual favor, then you will get the condition that you want, no? A promotion, a grade, and therefore there is an exchange, a quid pro quo, this for that, no? You give me this, I give you that. But the other one is, there may not be any quid pro quo, walang hinihingi sa'yo, but the environment is so hostile and unfriendly. This is, for example, an environment where people would mill around each other and would tell green jokes and would laugh. And so if you're passing by, you would not want to pass by these groups of people. They will look at you, they will look at you up and down, then they will laugh. And so there's nothing said to you, but you'd rather go around and, go through the longer route than pass through this group of people, usually a group of men, no? Telling about their sexual exploits, right? So yon yung hostile environment, right? Okay. So let me ask you, when people say, but di ba compliment yon when people say, ay, ang sexy-sexy mo naman, siguro ang galing-galing mong girlfriend, no? Is that a compliment? Would women generally feel uplifted when they are complimented unwantedly, not requested, no? Because sexual harassment is unwanted, uninvited, and unwelcome. It causes anguish. It causes the person receiving, usually the woman, to ask, what did I do is there something in the way I dress? Is there something in the way I act that invited them to give that comment? So natatanong ka tuloy, no? But it is not a compliment, no? So be careful when you have sexual comments to women, no? Referring to their bodies, referring to the size of their breasts, how many children they have, or should have, or must have, or you're a young woman with big hips, marami kang anak, so ganyan, yung mga comment na ganyan. Next. Women invite the behavior. Kaya ka naharas kasi ganyan ka magsuot. Kasi dapat hindi ka ganyan magsuot para hindi ka maharas. Is that true? And therefore, so women now should therefore cover themselves. Should wear loose-fitting clothes. Should not sit or laugh at a particular manner, in a particular manner, so that they will not be, palagay nyo ba pag nangyari yun, wala nang bastos? Palagay nyo ba kung lahat ng babae ay naka Maria Clara ang suot, so i-require nyo sa eskwelahan nyo, lahat ang suot natin ay mula head to toe, naka-cover kayo, palagay nyo ba wala nang mambabastos? Is that the answer? Or walang tatawa ng malakas, mga babae, at pag uupo kayo, huwag kayong nakaupo na makikita ang Is that really the response that we should have? No? We know that gender-based violence happens to anyone simply because you're a woman, as we have said. So it doesn't matter how you dress or how you sit or how you laugh. Or how you look at men. Tiningnan kasi ako kaya ako nabastos. Kaya ako nahawakan kasi tiningnan ako Yung tingin sa akin parang gusto hawakan ko siya. Is that it? There's several years back, a few years back in one of the police stations, the police station came up with 10 points for women not to be raped. And it's all on the woman. Don't go out late at night, don't drink, and etc. Blah blah. And so there was an uproar on the women's groups, against that police station. because the women said the police should know better, no? They should be the ones who should know that the reference should be the men should not rape, period. The men should not rape. That should be the point. Not to burden the women on what to do or not to do, but should tell the men that it is not a sign. If you see a woman walking alone at night, that is not an invitation to rape, right? So eventually they took down their 10 points, no? Because galit na galit yung mga tao, and the women came up with an alternative 10 points, no? On how to prevent rape from happening in the community. Okay? Tapos sabi nila, kunyari lang naman yan na na-offend siya, but actually flattered. Women are actually flattered when you call their when you say, you're wearing what you're wearing is so sexy. I'm so flattered by your so that's not true. And for women as well, on the other hand, if you do not like the comments being told by people around you on how you look like, right, and you feel you're offended, then tell them you're offended, right? Tell them stop it. Pag sinabi sa'yo na when you, for example, when you walk and there's a group of men that would wolf whistle, no? I don't know if one of you here can unmute and do the wolf whistle. Hindi ako marunong magsipol eh. So, I don't know if anyone knows how to wolf whistle here. Would anyone want to unmute and do the wolf whistle, please? Meron ba? Meron po bang marunong sumipol dito?
Try po.
Yan. Si Sir Noel ba yun? Okay.
Yes po.
Okay. You walk around and you pass a group of men and they would do that to you. Of course, I understand security. You should also protect yourself, etc., etc. But tell them to stop doing that if you don't feel comfortable on what they're doing. Otherwise, those that do it would think that it's okay. Diba? So, until you tell them it's not okay, then maybe they will think it's okay. No? So, tell them it's not okay. So, they will stop. Right? So, that's what sexual harassment means. No? Sexual harassment, unfortunately, although we have reports in the police, we know that all forms of violence against women, when we talk about all forms of violence against women, you get a report only of the tip of the problem. Because generally the victims will not report. So the national data that we have really will not reflect the real numbers. Okay, they will tell you a particular number of those report, but you can maybe sabi nila baka 10% lang yan of the actual occurrence, no? So in 2016, in Quezon City, the UN Women sponsored a study that looked at what is happening in the streets of Quezon City, at least, no? Limited to Quezon City. And what types of harassment happens and what types of harassment are experienced by women in Quezon City. And that study in 2016 found out that 3 out of 5 women would experience sexual harassment. And if you're younger, then there would be a higher prevalence of sexual harassment being committed. 70% would be committed by strangers. And more than half would be experienced on the streets. And 70% during the day. So hindi sa gabi nangyayari. Kalahati ng biktima walang ginagawa. Kasi ang iniisip nila, kasalanan nila kaya sila na-harass with the way they dress, with where they are, etc., etc. No? So even the CHR, which recognizes that sexual harassment is a form of human rights violation, issued a statement in the during pandemic that the internet online is not a safe place because there are reports of online sexual harassment. So these occurrences, no, or more recently the studies, no, led us to say, maybe we can do something more pa about what sexual harassment, how to address sexual harassment. We've already signed on to CEDAW, we have already the Constitution, there's already laws. What else can we do? What else can we do to address the problem of sexual harassment that is happening based on the study, at least, especially on the streets, right? So what do we have right now to be able to address sexual harassment? In terms of laws, right now we have 2 laws. In 1995, and I was also part of those that drafted one of the draft bills, no, but eventually na watered down yung aming draft bill, and the law ended up with just a sexual harassment in the work and sexual harassment in the school setting, no. Even in 1995 or prior to 1995, we're already advocating that sexual harassment happens anywhere, not just in the workplace and not just in the schools. But of course, the lawmakers said, very difficult yan, etc., etc. We'll just limit anyway. So the law in 1995, RA 7877, was limited only to schools and workplaces. And limited then who can commit. Again, our argument then was anybody can commit this to anyone. And we wanted a law that reflects that, no? But no, the law eventually came out that the person who can commit are those persons only with authority and influence over another, right? So again, very limiting, right? Although 7877 recognized the quid pro quo and hostile work environment, no, which I explained already. And what is good about 7877? Well, of course, what is good is that it criminalized sexual harassment. Prior to Republic Act 7877, while there are laws that you can find in the revised penal code that can be used if an act that is called sexual harassment, no, is happening, no, you can use some laws in the revised penal code. It is not called sexual harassment. There is no law in the revised penal code called sexual harassment. You can use acts of lasciviousness, you can use unjust vexation, no? Unjust vexation is anything that annoys you. So, but our argument then, why we needed a law that will define sexual harassment, is that these laws that we have right now do not capture the essence of the problem, do not understand gender-based, do not understand gender-based violence, do not understand gender discrimination, is not written in the context of gender-based discrimination, and therefore does not respond, diba? As I have said, no? Laws are written to respond to a particular problem, and the ones in the revised penal code are not really responsive. As a matter of fact, the ones in the revised penal code we only got from Código Penal of Europe, Mexico, Spain, etc., etc. No? So we thought our argument why we needed, because the lawmakers told us in 1995, bakit ba kailangan nyo pa ng batas, pampadami lang yan? Madami ng batas tayo na magagamit, why do you need that law? Same argument for RA 9262. Why else do you need another law for violence against women? We already have laws in the revised penal code. But these laws in the revised penal code, as I have said, do not recognize gender-based violence. They do not understand what it means. And therefore, the response is just imprisonment. When for us, the advocates, what we're saying is this is a social problem. This is a problem that is systematic. And therefore, imprisonment, only imprisonment, which the revised penal code gives us, will not appropriately stop the crime from being committed again, because there should be a deeper understanding of the crime other than just imprisoning people, right? So this is the reason why we have these special laws, we call them, no, that specifically describes the crime and and adopts other ways to stop or to respond to the problem, not just imprisonment, right? Okay. So 7877, RA 7877 introduced the creation of an investigation body in the workplace and in the school setting that would specially respond to sexual harassment. Of course, the assumption here is when you are CODI, then you understand the problem. So you do not put anyone, just anyone, on the CODI who do not understand what sexual harassment means, etc., because that's not, again, responsive to the problem if you just put anyone there, no? But unfortunately, that is not spelled out in Republic Act 7877. It just said creation of a CODI, which we thought as we implement the law and create CODI and teach people how to handle investigations, then the law now is lacking, no, in terms of providing guidance. Okay, so all of these limitations of RA 7877, what are the advantages of 7877? Advantages is, one, it recognizes a crime that is called sexual harassment. It at least recognizes it in specific circumstances, workplace and schools, although limited, no? And it sets up a mechanism called the CODI, right? But the disadvantages would be, as we have said, it limits who can commit and where it can be committed. And the 2016 study of UN Women informed the lawmakers that we can make a law, amend Republic Act 7877, make a law, broaden it, and now include other places where it can be committed. So in 2019, we now have a new law called the Safe Spaces Act, which really amends Republic Act 7877, no? Which is really a sexual harassment policy, a sexual harassment law that updates now how it can be committed. So the new law tells us there are four areas now where sexual harassment can be committed. It can be committed in public spaces, including streets. This is really from the UN study, from the 2016 UN study. It can also be committed online. It can be committed in the workplace and in education setting, much like the same way as 7877 tells us, no? RA 77 tells us. So there are four forms or four ways for areas where sexual harassment can be committed now. Okay. Let's begin with the first one, discussing the first one. If you notice, in terms of the law defining the crimes, it always begins with any unwanted and uninvited sexual action. It will always begin that way. Why? Because that is the definition of sexual harassment. Like I told you, it begins with the act that is an uninvited act, and the nature of the act is of a sexual nature. Right? So committed yan publicly, committed online, committed workplace, committed school, the same. Same. Apat yung two elements na yan would always be, kahit so, even if it's not written, that is how it will be defined, right? Now, as opposed to committed only by someone with moral ascendancy, the law now tells us it happens in these areas, in these four places, it can be committed by any person now. So kahit mas bata, mas matanda, ang posisyon, baligtad, mas subordinate yung nag-commit, mas superior yung nakomitan, basta there is an unwanted, uninvited sexual action, then that is sexual harassment, right? And regardless of the motive of the person committing the action. So the person would just say as a defense, but I was just joking. I didn't mean it to be a harassment. I was just complimenting her. I was just joking. So regardless, immaterial the motive of the person committing the action. You have to ask the recipient, the one receiving. What did you feel when those words were said? When those actions were done? Did you feel harassed? Did you feel nabastos? Did you feel offended? And if yes, then it is unwanted. And what is the type of action that was done? Is it of a sexual nature? Then that's sexual harassment. Okay? Where committed particularly, right? So you look at the list here. Streets, lahat ng klase ng street, buildings, lahat ng klase ng buildings, no? Mall, lahat ng mga recreational areas, no? Transportation, where you go to, where people congregate, in short, right? Where people congregate, right? So, later on, I will also mention some of the problems where some solutions can also be recommended, no? But take note of this listing of public spaces. So anywhere that your students frequent or anywhere you frequent, you just take a look if they are here, and just be careful, no? Because sexual harassment may happen in any of these areas. What are the types of actions that can happen, no? Catcalling, wolf whistling, unwanted invitations, misogynistic, transphobic, and homophobic and sexist slurs. Now, there are no laws that quite define what we mean by misogynistic, transphobic, homophobic, and sexist, no? Because we understand also that the recipients of sexual harassment would be the LGBTQ community. And so therefore, this law tries to define, and we got the definitions from reputable sources, no? Which basically refers to a showing or a manifestation of a hate against women and a belief that men are better, no, than women, and so simply it's a showing of their discriminatory or hateful attitude towards women, no, and the stereotypes and the prejudices. Basically that's what it means, right? What else aside from catcalling and misogynistic remarks? Persistent telling of sexual jokes. And so therefore, if you have professors, if you have students, if you have groups of people here who think that to be able to put people at ease, you need to crack a joke, then that's sexual harassment. No, you don't need to do that. Persistent uninvited comments on the gestures or on a person's appearance, no? With the way people look, with the way people dress, with the way the body is curved in a particular way, right? So that's sexual harassment. It will include leering. It will include staring, right? Staring at a person from head to toe. I don't know if, hopefully not, you have students here where they group together and every woman that passes by, they will rate. 10 ito, 8 ito. And they will have basis on why they are rating the women that way, no? So the students who pass by, who know that this is happening, would feel uneasy, no? Would feel offended, no? And would rather go in a different way than pass through that way, no? Public masturbation, showing of their private parts, no? Relentless request for personal details, no? Nangungulit, ano mong pangalan mo, anong number mo, labas naman tayo, kain naman tayo. That can be sexual harassment to a certain up to a certain extent, no? Okay, so that's public. What I'm going to do now in terms of discussing is I will go through the forms first, right? On a per topic basis, no? I will go through the forms first. Then I will go to what to do and the penalties, etc., etc. So the next type is online sexual harassment. Well, what is online sexual harassment? Online sexual harassment refers to, again, any unwanted, uninvited, that is of a sexual nature, that is conducted through the use of technology. So if the acts are conducted through the use of cell phones, emails, and social media, etc., etc., any information communication technology devices, then it becomes gender-based online sexual harassment, right? So it may be the same acts as I defined in the public sexual harassment, but the way it was committed was through online. So, but here it would include, for example, uploading photos without your consent, videos and recordings without consent, always without consent, of course. Cyber stalking, online identity threat, then those are what constitutes online sexual harassment. So it can be physical, psychological, emotional threat. Again, the comments, unwanted, misogynistic, etc., etc. That happens online. Always online. So kung yung pangungulit, asking your information is happening online, then it can be online sexual harassment, right? Etc., etc. So all of this, when you read the types or the forms of what we mean, this is self-explanatory. Any unauthorized recording or sharing of your photos, no, without your consent, impersonating identity theft, no, impersonating the identity of the person online, right? Writing something online to silence you, no, you've been a victim of sexual harassment. Naglagay siya online, inunahan ka so that you will not report or you will be silenced. So that makes it all the more, no? Sexual harassment, but now happening online kasi baka may physical harassment na ginawa sa'yo, right? So, ito online naman ngayon, okay? So, yun yung pangalawa. The third type is what happens in the workplace. So, you're a worker, basically, no? So, here, amending Republic Act 7877, again, we begin by a definition that it is any unwelcome advances, okay, request or demand. Now, what is that? Quid pro quo, diba? May request, may exchange, no? Whether done verbally, physically, or through technology. So, in the workplace, whether done physically or done through online, right? So, kino-combine na niya. Or in any other place where it's considered still a workplace, because sometimes, for example, you go on a conference, no? You go on a official travel, no? Nasa bus kayo. So it's not the workplace, but it can be gender-based sexual harassment in the workplace because you are on a official travel. So considered working pa rin yun, diba? Now here also, sinasabi that it can be done by any person now, no? Not just the one with moral ascendancy. So it can be committed between peers, office mates, equal rank, by a subordinate, or of course by a superior as well, no? So this in effect amends the former law, right? Where the former law is limited to moral ascendancy and superiority and superior position. Here now we're saying anyone can commit for as long as the setting is workplace, right? And for government offices, the civil service came out already with a resolution on how to address if you're in a government setting, no? It defined, of course, every workplace should also have its own CODI, its own code of conduct and its own CODI. But the civil service already also puts up, so you can look at the civil service resolution and look at how they have identified the offenses, the penalties, etc., etc. And it's not naman pangongopya. It's if you will look at that and use that if it is also applicable to your situation. Okay. The last form, would be education setting, no? Now here, the law did not begin with unwanted and invited already. But again, as I said, we already know that that is that, no? That is the definition of gender-based sexual harassment, now only committed in the setting of an educational institution, right? Yung isa ang setting niya street, public, yung isa ang setting niya online, yung isa ang setting niya workplace, ito ang setting niya school, okay? So, who can commit? So, the law lists people who can commit. And here, you will see again, there is no more rank, although of course it repeats persons in authority, no? But it can also be committed by anyone here, right? In the same manner as the workplace can be committed by anyone, no? The law instructs the school what to do. So you should have the law says you should have an office that should receive the complaint. But more importantly, the law says, considering the nature of the offense, there should be an assurance that the space will ensure confidentiality. Hindi ka naman maglalagay ng place to report where everyone passes by and everyone can see. Na makita na may kausap si school official or school personnel, tas ay, naku, nagko-complain yan kasi, and everyone can see, no? So, that should not be the situation, no? It need not be directly the CODI. It can be another setup in the school where later on can be referred to a CODI. But because what is more important at that particular point, no, is for the student or for the victim or for anyone who's victimized, not only students, for them to realize that there is somewhere they can go to tell what happened, to report what happened, and maybe to discuss with them what to do, the options. That's what's important, no? The options on should they file a case, should they just be silent, what should they do? What if my parents will know, etc. All of this. So all of this in the minds of the victim can be verbalized and in some ways responded to, no? Whenever the response is available, no? So there should be a grievance procedure, which I will explain later on. So, but really here, when you look at the law in terms of the schools, the law goes straight to what a school should do, right? Set up a reporting system, set up an investigation system, and the CHED has issued also a memorandum in 2022. I hope you already have this copy on what sexual harassment is, what are the mechanisms, how to prevent for higher education, right? So to help you set up your code of conduct and CODI, right? So those are the 4 types, understanding what constitutes sexual harassment now, okay? The next part that we need to understand is, okay, so we already know now what are punishable, what are criminal in terms of sexual harassment, who are supposed to implement these laws, okay? When you talk about public sexual harassment, it should be, sa kalye kasi yan no? So it should be your traffic enforcers, it should be your PNP, it should be your local government offices, no? Local government units, right? And always these people who will implement should know the law and should know what gender discrimination means, no? In other words, those that are implementing should understand what they are implementing. Yun po but that's the message of the law, no? So the law tells you what to do. If you are the traffic enforcer, if you are the PNP, if you are the local government unit, what should you do? And the DILG has already helped local governments what they can do. Now, the law tells the local government units should have an ordinance implementing the Safe Spaces Act. That is called localization. So I don't know if it should be the province of Albay in province of Camarines Sur, Camarines Norte, insofar as Bicol is concerned, or it can be city-based, no? It can be Legazpi, it can be Naga, setting up their own Safe Spaces Act. Is that a repetition? Bakit ka pa maglo-local, mag-o-ordinance, may national law na? There are instances where the laws, the national laws, do not mention everything that may be found in the localities. No? For example, if you go back to the law and you look at the listing of public spaces, okay? You may note that, for example, in the listing of public spaces here, there may be public spaces that may be in your province or in your areas that are not here. Okay? That are in the provincial setting that may, because remember, this is really based on the Quezon City study, right? So maybe the model is so urban. Right. So the model is so urban, and there may be rural areas, public spaces also, but are found in rural areas that may be there. So that is where your ordinances may be of use, right? So yun, baka ganon, no? So in other words, the localization in the local government units would take into consideration those that are not found in the law but are applicable in your specific setting. So have a special ordinance on that, no? So naglabas na po ang DILG ng support, no? So meron na rin ang DILG at saka ang PCW in terms of how to help the local government units, because their duty is to pass an ordinance that will localize the applicability of the law, right? So for public spaces, kailangan ng, sabi, localize the applicability of the law. Syempre hindi lang for public spaces, for all, no? For all the in the law, but especially public spaces, no? The next one, for if you want to file a complaint for online sexual harassment, is the PNP Cybercrime Unit, no? That are supposed to, and they are actually, hindi po namin alam kung nagawa na nila. They are supposed to have a system that can capture real time. In other words, if it happens to you now, you can immediately, because knowing that sa online, madaling mawala. Although of course, pwede namang hanapin yan, no? Pero alam naman natin, ang daling burahin online, di ba? So dapat may system ang cybercrime unit of the PNP that will allow reporting real-time gender-based sexual harassment so that the perpetrators can be apprehended immediately, no? So mabilis kasi pag online, no? So because this law was 2019, the implementations come, well, one by one, no? So I will be honest, I haven't checked if the cybercrime group of the PNP already has this mechanism, no? Because in other, as I said, no, CHED already issued, civil service already issued, DOLE already issued for workers, no? So yun po, yung mga groups, yung mga institutions that are mandated to issue implementing rules on the law, one by one, they are starting to issue the implementing guidelines, no? But so those are the ones implemented. So what are the responsibilities of people now to make sure that there is no gender-based sexual harassment, no? So if you are an owner of a public, if you are an owner of a private place renting out to the public, you're a restaurant owner, you're a computer, you have a computer shop, no, where people congregate. You have a resort, you have a spa, no? Anything that is offered to the public and you are the owner of that, no? Your responsibility as the owner is to make sure that there is zero tolerance policy in your business place, right? To make sure that you prevent the occurrence, you help in the prevention. So you set up CCTV working, syempre. You set up and that your staff know what sexual harassment means. And at least there is a person that is called as anti-sexual harassment officer, where if sexual harassment happens in your establishment, then that person would know what to do. That person would know that that victim should be assisted, that whatever you place in your business establishment that can be used as evidence, the police or the courts can request that, no? So yung tapes sa CCTV, kung may picture na nakuha, kung ano man ang nandun sa inyong lugar, that can be used as an evidence, can be given, provided to the investigating body. In short, the task of those owners is to make sure that there's a safe, gender-sensitive environment in their business establishments. In short, yun. And second, you should have a protocol on what to do if in case sexual harassment happens. So kung meron po dito sa inyo na may sari-sari store, from sari-sari store to restaurants, to spa, to resorts, to whatever businesses you have, the establishment should make sure that it is safe against sexual harassment, and that if ever sexual harassment happens, that you have a protocol on what to do. Right? So, yan ang responsibilidad ng mga private people. If you naman are an employee, you are supposed to, employee or co-workers, you are supposed to make sure that you do not commit sexual harassment, right? And if you know sexual harassment is being committed, that you report. Of course, the problem there is, but if I report and the person naman, the victim would not want it reported, ano pong gagawin ko? That's really a problem, no? So that's where maybe counseling can come in, no? You can report, but if the person would not want to come out, then there should be a process, no? For the person to talk to someone so that the issue may be processed, whether or not that person would want to proceed or not, no? But make sure that it's not happening to your workplace. Of course, if you're the employer, you make sure that these things happen, what we're doing right now. No? You make sure that you disseminate the information. You make sure that there are mechanisms that are in place. You have the code and you have the code of conduct. And you develop a process on how to disseminate information, that everyone in your employment knows what sexual harassment means, knows the mechanisms that you have to address the issue, and what they can do if sexual harassment happens, right? Because if you don't do that, in the old law, in RA 7877, the employer is criminally liable if you know and you don't do anything. Right now naman po ngayon, wala nang imprisonment for the employer, but there are damages, no? You can be asked to pay damages, no? For not doing or not implementing what you're supposed to do, right? To be able to address gender-based sexual harassment. If you are part of the school, again, just like an employer, disseminating, ensuring implementation, ensuring everyone knows what RA 11313 is all about, or what sexual harassment is all about. So actually, what you're doing right now is the right way. You begin with including the leaders of the school, because if the leaders of the school are the ones that are not aware of the law, then you may have a problem. How can you expect the students to know if the leaders do not know? So you begin with the leaders knowing what sexual harassment is all about, right? So that they will be the ones to lead the school to stop it, right? To prevent it, and they will support. Because sometimes, and in real life, this is what happens, mas gusto ng mga tao na may gawin, naiintindihan, pero pag akyat sa taas, pag akyat sa mga leaders, pag akyat sa those who are supposed to sign and those who are supposed to approve, those who are supposed to approve do not understand what this is all about and either iiwan lang dyan sa table nila for a long time or they make a problem. They create a problem for the implementation. No? So it's very important for the heads of training institutions to be able to understand and to lead, as I said, to lead the implementation correctly of the gender-based sexual harassment. And to, of course, including creating mechanisms, right? Okay. So, and to make sure that people are designated there. Okay. Now, so yun yung tasks ng mga tao, right? Now, pag hindi mo ginawa or pag nag-violate ka or nag-sexual harass ka, ano ang penalty mo? Kung sa public mo ginawa ang sexual harassment, depende what acts, and there are offense, first offense, second offense. The law tried to multi-layer the offenses, no? Here, let me just discuss a new type of penalty that is called community service. This is not in our usual penal laws, no? Hindi po ito imprisonment. Ang first offense, kapag ka nag-wolf whistle ka, nag-catcall, nag-leer, ayan, nakalista yung mga acts, no? Would be community service of 12 hours. That should include a gender sensitivity session. Now, ang tanong dito, paano ko ba malalaman kung how to spend the 12 hours? That is not in the law, right? Ang trabaho po niyan, kailangan yung LGU, PCW, PNP. Now, again here, I have a friend, a judge, who wants to, someone filed a case, guilty yung tao. This judge now calls me and asks me, how do I implement the 12 hours? How many would be for GST? How many would be for whatever? I said, the law does not tell us that, so you better talk to your gender point person in your LGU or PNP and ask them if they have a guideline already. So medyo yun po yung problema natin dito, no? Baka magsampa ng kaso sa korte, tapos guilty, tapos the judge do not understand how to impose the 12 hours. Because you can have 12 hours all for gender sensitivity training, fine. But paano kung sabihin ni judge, 1 hour of training and 11 hours of cleaning the grass in my lawn? That is not technically wrong because you should have a guideline nga on this, no? So medyo in that sense po medyo hindi pa malinaw, no? So I will not go through but if you look at the law, so for offensive body gestures, again, the first offense is community service. For stalking, depende kasi sa gravity. If you notice, for stalking and acts that are more grave, no, wala na po yung community service. Agad, arresto menor agad. So 1 to 30 days agad yung penalty, no? So for public spaces. But notice that if you commit the crime online, wala yung community service as penalty. Ang penalty mo agad imprisonment of between 2 years to 4 years. Yun ang level ng penalty if it is committed online, no? So medyo mas mataas po. There are hotlines, no? Ito part ito ng trabaho ng schools, ng workplace, na dapat we should put up all of this, no? Put up all of these numbers or what to call, or even sa eskwelahan, no? If sexual harassment happens, go to this office. The students should be able to know, should know that, no? So etong mga hotlines na to, Hindi ko alam, baka po, pero 177 naman to eh. So, national to, I would imagine. Pero sorry, yung MMDA, mas NCR lang. So, you should have your traffic enforcer in your city, in your area, and have something like this, no? Okay. Now, what about the code of conduct and the CODI? The instruction for schools and workplaces is you should have a code of conduct. What is a code of conduct? Code of conduct would define what would be sexual harassment, who will be covered, what are the forms, what are the penalties, who can commit, how they can commit it, right? What are the roles, what are the responsibilities of everyone? No? What is the coverage? Now, especially for schools, if you're a school that sends out students to places where they do on-the-job training, you should have an agreement with that company or that institution that accepts your students, because the students you send to these institutions are the ones that are most vulnerable. Sila yung powerless, young, under the tutelage of someone. So they are most vulnerable. Wala kayong kamalay-malay, baka yung mga interns ninyo, mga nag-OJT ninyo, na-chancingan na, nahaharas na, nakokomentohan na, ng kung, oh, ang gandang bata nito yung mga ganyan. And therefore, that institution should not tolerate. No? And so therefore, you should discuss, have an agreement on if that happens and the student wants to file a case, where can the student file a case? Sa inyo ba? Hindi nyo naman empleyado yung respondent, or dun sa opisina ba? Hindi naman empleyado tong estudyante. So medyo yung mga ganyang agreements po pwedeng gawin between the institutions. So if you have hotel and restaurant management, that kind of setup, sorry, hindi ko na alam anong tawag ngayon sa mga courses na yan, and you have service institutions that receive, especially service institutions that receive the students, no? Then please take care of these students who go out and are engaged in trainings where they are more vulnerable. Okay. So that's what the code of conduct should contain. It should contain the procedures, how to file a case, how investigations will happen, how the CODI will be chosen, what are the qualifications, may terms of office ba yan, etc., etc. The CODI now is the committee that investigates, and there should be a procedure that they should agree to, no? So, how to conduct the investigation. Now, the law provides us with a set of people that should comprise the CODI. But if in your jurisdiction, in your area, in your school, you feel that there are other groups that should be included in the CODI, then that is not prohibited by the law, no? So pero may minimum na nilalagay diyan, representative of the administration, representative of the student body. If there are any other groups that you think should be represented, then you can have that in your code of conduct. But the CODI should be headed by a woman. Ito kino-question po, bakit headed by a woman? Well, the law thought that the woman should head. So wala na po akong ibang sagot doon kung hindi yon. Okay, I will not go through the function of the CODI, no, except to say that the law understands that sometimes, especially in close-knit communities, people know everyone. So there should be a procedure for inhibition in the CODI. In other words, baka yung member ng CODI, tito, ninong, kilala nung respondent or nung complainant, and where impartiality may be questioned. So you should have a provision on if someone questions or asks for a member of the CODI to be replaced. Kasi baka may impartiality, maapektuhan yung impartiality, no? Okay. Tapos importante rin po sa rules natin to make sure that the parties will be prevented from will be protected from retaliation. So in other words, in a workplace setting, huwag mo naman automatic kunyari ang victim is a subordinate, tas aalisin mo siya para daw hindi direct ng boss. O so parang pinanish mo agad. So what is the form of protection from retaliation? Or pag estudyante, ililipat mo siya sa kabilang subject teacher. Yun lang ba? Is that the only protection? No? So that may be so, but are there anything else that can be done? I don't know. No? So but there should be a realization or a consciousness that you need to protect the complainant from retaliation. The last points are just for implementation by the because always the problem is this is a law, you don't know to what extent has this been implemented. Ilan na bang schools ang may CODI? Ilan na bang opisina ang may CODI? Now, the law sets up now an interagency body that is supposed to oversee the implementation of the law. No? So, I will not go through that. The last part would be knowing that, of course, these offenses are committed, but when do you file? The law tells us when to file. So, ito pong mga nauna na tatlo, 1 year, 3 years, 10 years, depende what was done. Pag sa streets, pag online, imprescriptible. Ano ibig sabihin nun? You can file it anytime. It will not, there is no limit, no, to when you can file. Kasi ang sabi, pag online, it's forever there, no? You can search even if the file is deleted, you can retrieve. So but if it is workplace and schools, then you have 5 years to file. Unfortunately, what is now the problem for the workplace and the schools? Unfortunately, the law forgot to include a penalty for schools and workplaces. You remember, we have a penalty for public spaces. We have a penalty for online, right? I did not discuss anything about schools and workplaces because the law did not include a penalty for schools and workplaces. What is the implication of that? You don't know which court to go to. Kasi po, the penalties tell you which court you can go to. If the penalty is lesser than 6 years, then you go to the municipal or metropolitan trial court. If the penalty is more than 6 years, then you go to regional trial court. Unfortunately, the law forgot to tell us what the penalty for if that is committed in the school. So what is your solution? One solution is if it falls under the old law, meaning committed by a superior, in schools and in workplaces, then you can use that law. And therefore, metropolitan or municipal kasi po, mababa yung penalty doon, no? So there. But until we amend the law, for schools especially, this is why your CODI is important because your student is left with an administrative remedy, yung procedure nyo sa school. Unless the case is committed publicly or online, then you use public and online provisions. Pero kung halimbawa po physical, tapos committed in the school, unless within a building, baka pwedeng gamitin yung building. So, ang sinasabi ko lang po, there may be situations where we need to study what happened and if we can use which provisions of the law. But importantly, you need to have an administrative mechanism so that at least the student or the victim can have the administrative proceedings to rely on. Kahit na yung sa batas, medyo aaralin mo pa kung saan ka ba magfo-fall. Okay? So yan. Of course, if you have a CODI now, but your CODI is written under 7877, syempre, what you need to do is to amend. Okay? So I will stop there. And I hope that
So there you go. So nawala po ang ating speaker, si Attorney Getty. So nagbigay na rin po siya ng warning kanina prior to her talk na baka po mawala-wala siya sa ating program or dito sa ating forum. But while waiting for her to log in once again, I would like to acknowledge the presence of our participants for this morning. All right. So if your name was called, kindly heart react naman dyan para naman makita natin kung talagang nandito pa rin kayo as of this moment. So let's start with our Bicol University Open University students. Andyan po ba yung mga taga BOOU? May nakita po akong GM, of course, MPA, Maing Ed. So andito sila. Okay, thank you. How about from the students of the College of Social Sciences and Philosophy or CSSP? Andito pa ba yung mga future social workers natin and yung other students natin
Ay,
from
hello,
CSSP?
sorry.
Ay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Saan po
hello.
ako natutol, sir?
As far as I remember, ma'am, doon po sa mga other provisions pa ng ating batas, ma'am.
Natapos po ba ako sa schools?
Yes, exactly.
Ah.
Yes, po.
Okay, so okay na po yun. Yung the rest would be just oversight, implementing, and prescriptive period. So, yeah, sorry for that, no? Sabi ko na, naputol ako eh. Sorry. So, we have time for additional, clarificatory questions if you have, questions.
Yes, once again, let's give virtual clap na muna sa ating speaker, everyone. Thank you so much, ma'am, Attorney Getty, for that, of course, interactive, informative, and at the same time, you discussed the important provision of the Republic Act 1131-3. Nalaman namin kung ano nga ba ang covers nito, nalaman din namin kung ano yung mga penalties, nalaman din natin na kung ano nga ba yung mga limitations. And at the same time, nalaman din natin na hindi lang pala dapat tayo matuto lang sa batas. Kailangan meron din tayong responsibilidad upang maibigay ang tamang impormasyon sa lahat ng mga tao, lalo na sa mga hindi nila alam na nagiging biktima na pala sila ng harassment. So now, at this point, meron na po tayong mga katanungan because 11:24 na. So habang inintay pa rin po natin sa chat box yung mga katanungan ninyo, pwede po natin yan i-chat dito for today to that kind of our open forum. Ngayon, ma'am, sisimulan na natin yung ating first question na isinend sa akin. Ito. Unang katanungan po, ma'am, paano po if naging mannerism na yung ating pag-touch ng katawan? Kasi sometimes may mga tao talaga na malambing, may mga tao talaga na touchy, may mga tao talaga na parang ganun yung love language nila sa isang tao. Pero at the end of the day, wala namang mali siya. Wala namang anything na iniisip. So ang tanong dito, ma'am, paano kung naging mannerism? Ako ma'am, personally speaking, pag halimbawa nagsasabi ako ng good job well done, or what, so parang may konting tapik. Pero sa iba, parang may mali siya, pero sa akin wala. Paano kung naging mannerism ko na yung pag-touch ng body? Sabihin natin sa balikat, pero na-open pala siya. So paano po yun?
Opo. Now, ito pong mga sessions na ganito gives us the sensitivity, no? The consciousness also for everyone, no? So, ang long and short of the ang advice ko kung mannerism mo na yun, stop mo na lang para walang problema. Kasi baka nga magka-problema pa, di ba? And again, as I said, no, the point of reference is not the one doing it. So even if you say, wala naman po akong doon ganun lang talaga ako. The reference is the one receiving. So as far as the one receiving it, pag sinabi niya, alam mo sir, naaano ko, tuwing hinahawakan mo ako sa likod, nagaganon ako yung, di ba, yung minsan, yung reaction, yung napapaganon siya, yung nagugulat, no? Then that's baka sa kanya na-offend siya noon, no? So, So, safe na lang po if don't do it para or ask the person, at the person receiving should be able to say, actually, I don't I don't want you to do it, or the person will say, I don't mind you doing it, then that's in that way, then it's not uninvited. Diba? Kasi what we want to understand here is the uninvitedness of it. You don't assume that it's okay with people, but to be clear, then you just ask them, no?
Correct, ma'am, no? In other words, attorney, kailangan maging proactive na lang tayo. So, in other
Oo.
words, kung hindi naman natin masyado kakilala yung tao, we don't need to do that at all,
Correct.
di ba? So, kung kakilala naman natin, very close naman tayo doon sa taong yun, why not, di ba? Pero kahit papaano, we have to be sensitive enough para at least alamin din natin na hindi naman kailangan gawin pa yon, bakit mo kailangan? So, kung manirisan mo, you're correct, attorney, na syempre kung manirisan mo yun, tigilan mo na. So, paunti-unti. Ano po, di ba po, attorney? Parang paunti-unti, kahit paano kung manirisan mo siya, tigil-tigilan na ng konti. Lalo na yung mga, kasi syempre may mga politiko na talagang very handshake, tapik, di ba? So may mga ganyan talaga. Pero yun na nga, no? So, yun yung answer natin, which is really correct. So ngayon, ma'am, let's proceed to the second question. Paano naman po, ma'am? Kanina pinag-uusapan natin yung mga ebidensya, pinag-uusapan natin yung ano nga ba yung nangyari, kung ano nga ba yung mga talagang totoong kwento. Ang tanong is, paano po if hindi naman na-capture and walang evidence, but nangyari talaga or it really happened, yung sexual harassment? Ano po dapat gawin or what should be done?
Generally po, sexual violence happens between the two persons only, between the victim and the one that did it. Wala namang, generally speaking, wala namang sexual violence na nangyayari with everyone there watching it, no? Except may talagang bastos na tao na manghahalik in front of everyone, di ba? But normally, laging tanong yan, paano walang ebidensya? Ang ebidensya po ay yung complaint ng complainant. So is the testimonial evidence, the testimony of the complainant, that should be the evidence, that should be the main evidence. Now, the CODI or the group, the committee that is tasked to investigate is supposed to take, determine the credibility of the testimony. Kasi sabi mo, pwede po bang gumawa-gawa lang siya ng kwento? Kasi baka galit lang siya sa akin, or binagsak ko kasi yung estudyante ko, so finailan ako ng sexual harassment. Di naman talaga nangyari yan. So it depends on the credibility of the story. So pwede namang mag-clarificatory questions dun sa tao, yung committee, no, to determine how credible is the question, no. Now, of course, credibility of the story should not include, naku, pero mabuting tao po yan. Ano po yan? Every Sunday, ano yan? Nagbibigay ng komunyon sa simbahan at miyembro po yan ng lahat ng organizations at nagli-lead at hindi po. Ang tatanungin mo lang yung nangyari, whether or not it happened, yung credibility of what happened. The outside circumstances, the reputation of that person, naku, ano po, ang buong pamilya po niyan, kilalang kilala sa amin. It doesn't matter. It is yung credibility. Hindi niyan pwedeng gawin yan kasi hindi po yun ang credibility na pinag-uusapan natin. Yung credibility is whether the kwento of the complainant, when you analyze the story, how credible is that, no? Now, sometimes, hindi na niya maalala lahat. Sabihin, hinawakan ka, kaliwa, kanan, anong nauna. It's okay. Hindi po dun sa you remember everything clearly, because sometimes, kapag mabilis na mangyari yan, hindi mo nasa-shock mo, dahil sa shock mo, hindi mo na maalala talaga yung pangyayari, no? So, but sometimes, if you're part of the investigating committee, no, you repeatedly ask the same question and the answer is the same, and then, you determine therefore nagsasabi naman ng totoo tong tao na to na ganon, no? So, yun. So, ganun po. So, hindi mo kailangan may punit na damit o may object, what we call object evidence, no? Or real evidence. Kasi dalawang klase naman po ang ebidensya, isang testimonial at isang object. So, hindi kailangang may may pasa o may ano, if the testimony is the only evidence that you have, then that's the evidence that you should present. And you don't need to have a witness as well. So kaya po ang tawag dun sa nagrereklamo ay complaining witness. Kasi siya ang complainant at siya ang witness. So hindi mo kailangang humanap ng ibang tao na magwi-witness. Unless, of course, sometimes immediately after it happened, you called up a friend, you told a friend what happened, then that other friend can be included, not to testify on whether or not it happened, but to testify on what the victim told her afterwards. So, yung umiiyak ba yung biktima, humihingal, ano yung state, mas ganon yung testimony ng witness. Hindi yung whether or not ginawa ba talaga ng tao yung yung harassment. No? Pero wala naman siya doon di ba? Wala namang nakakita.
Correct, ma'am. Correct. Sabi nga po dito ni Dr. Noel, yun nga, no, meron din siya kakilala at nangyari din po ito sa kanya. And at the same time, proper investigation helped and I was vindicated and the student was charged and his cohort paid the bail. And sabi naman ni Jessie, nakarelate din siya sa simpleng topic, di ba? And at the same time, meron tayo ditong tanong, ma'am, from the BOU, Social Study Education from Joanne Natividad. Can a student be liable for a sexual harassment if he or she made a sexually suggestive remark against a teacher?
Posible po na sexual harassment. As we said, ngayon sa Safe Spaces Act, the student can be charged, no? As opposed to Republic Act 7877, teacher lang. Ngayon, kung estudyante yung gumawa, pwede na rin.
So, ibig sabihin, ma'am, broad na, medyo malawak na po itong batas.
Kahit sino po, kahit sino. Kaya nga po ang code of conduct ninyo, ang importante, you define what a student is. Kung ako enrolled 3 units lang, pwede na ba yun? O dapat ba full-time ako? Paano kung irregular student ako? So, no, so depende po sa eskwelahan to define sino ba ang estudyante as far as you are concerned at sino ba ang employee as far as you are concerned, no? So iklaro yung mga ganyang wala naman po sa batas hindi naman sinabi lang sa batas anyone or a student. So up to you to define what you consider as a student, no?
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Halimbawa ang gumawa nagtitinda ng yung inaalaw ninyo sa loob ng eskwelahan nyo na magtinda ng ice cream. Yun yung nangharas ng estudyante. Paano yun? Diba? So, up to the school to define. Kasi hindi naman worker yun. Diba? Hindi naman, yung guest ba siya? Sino yung mga inaalaw nyo to, be inside your university that are not strictly professors, not strictly, so yung mga ganyang gray areas, then the code of conduct should define.
Thank you, ma'am. And of course, we have here, I think this is the last question. Paano po if ang boss mo ay nakakommit ng harassment? What should be the process? Kunyari po, syempre, we are talking about the workplace now. So from the student, dumiretso na tayo sa professional, so doon sa boss or sa workplace. So ang tanong dito po again is paano naman po kapag yung boss naman yung nakakommit ng harassment? Ano po yung process nito?
There should be a mechanism in the workplace where the employees can go to. HR ba yan? May gender office ba? Saan ba sila pwedeng pumunta? Kasi they can go there. Hindi naman kailangan CODI agad o yung Committee on Decorum and Investigation agad. Now, that person can go to that place or that mechanism to discuss what happened, and so that person can, and it need not be immediately a complaint. Kasi baka takot yung empleyado, 'di ba? So takot siya mag-complain. So gusto lang niyang ikwento yung nangyari at tanungin, ano po bang pwede kong gawin? So that mechanism, that office should be able to help the student. Siyempre, hindi siya pwedeng mag-complain sa boss niya kasi yung boss nga niya yung harasser niya, di ba? So there should be a mechanism where they can go to and to ask for advice what to do, no? At importante po yung sinasabi ko kanina, yung policy ninyo should have a process for making sure non-retaliation happen. Kasi pag nagreklamo siya at nalaman ng boss niya na nagreklamo siya, paano na lang siya? Baka pag-initan siya, baka up for evaluation pala, end of the year, evaluate na bagsak para walang bonus, walang etc. Yung mga ganon ba? So, yun. Kailangan may protection against all of those things.
All right. Once again, thank you so much, Attorney Getty. And before that, Director Noel, do you have anything?
Yes po, congratulations and thank you very much po, Attorney Jetty. May tanong lang po ako kasi minsan tinatanong ako sa university, what if po takot talaga yung bata o yung employee, mukhang wala pa ho kami masyado yatang procedure. Pero pwede ho bang mag-file ng complaint? Parang hindi ho yata, ano po, yung napagsabihan na office kasi nga po takot yung concerned person?
Kapag ka po takot yung person, well, ang importante dapat may counseling support, no? Kasi kailangan i-process yung takot na yon, right? Kasi takot sa nanggagaling. Takot yung estudyante kasi takot sa parents, takot sa lahat, takot mismo sa teacher kasi baka teacher niya ngayon, ibagsak siya, running for honor, maraming reason, yung takot sa reputation, etc., etc. So kailangan, you have to process where the fear is coming from. Now, the office can actually file because this case is not a private offense. This is a public offense. So the office can file. Ang problema lang po dyan, you will encounter a problem when it comes to investigation na because your information is chismis in a sense, di ba? Because you need the complainant to be the witness. You don't have an eyewitness kasi pinagsabihan lang kayo eh. So while you are not prevented by the law to complain, to file a complaint, practically speaking, during investigation time, your case may be weak if the person would not come on board because your evidence would be very limited. Your evidence really, if you are the ones to file the office, your evidence really is limited to what you observed of the student. While you were talking to the student, did the student appear frightened? Did the student appear diba? Angry? Yung credibility ng office nandun lang. Pero yung whether or not it happened, which is the point of the complaint, you cannot tell that, diba? You cannot categorically say nangyari talaga yon. Kasi hindi mo naman nakita. Pero ang sabi mo yung demeanor ng estudyante kasi na-observe mo yon. Kasi to be a witness, you have to actually see, you have to actually touch, you have to actually, diba? You cannot be second-hand information. So, yun lang yung problema doon.
Thank you po.
Thank you once again, Director Noel and Ma'am Attorney. May tanong po si Dean Bert. Dean, and then right after, yung nagsalita po kanina. So, Dean Bert, do you have any question or any concern?
Sa akin, it's not really it's a combination of question and comment kasi especially when we look at the workplace, for example, napakahirap mag-complain. I mean, mahirap mag-complain because it's an admin case. So therefore, sometimes, although madali mag-complain sa admin case, pero ang pagdating sa proseso, mahirap kasi yung mga boss mo, for example, o kaya yung mga investigating body could influence the outcome of your complaint. Maybe if they are not favorable to you or maybe they are siding with the kasama nila sa ka-level nila sa then pwedeng ma-whitewash yung mo. Pwedeng you can be pressured to enter into an agreement na kaya ito i-withdraw na lang yung then parang ganon, yung mga ganon mga style, yun yes, usually diyan nangyayari ang mahirap sa mga lower level na mga employees kasi they will be subjected to a lot of pero sila actually ang nabibiktima ng ganyang mga sitwasyon. And sa teachers naman siguro para maiwasan natin yung mga abuses ng sa teachers kasi mahirap din kasi parang very talaga ang occasion for harassment is very lalo na kung yung teacher mo ay misogynistic, mahilig mag joke ng mga bagay na nakaka-embarrassing. Pag estudyante, ang usually ang observation ko kasi sa mga estudyante, they are afraid to complain. Kasi nga, they are conscious of their grades, they would like to pass, and they do not want to na ma-hassle yung kanilang pag-aaral. Sometimes, I've seen many situations like that na they just pass it on, parang wala lang, kasi yun nga. Kaya yun po ang nakikita kong Pero maganda itong mga batas natin na ito because this gives us an avenue kung talagang feeling natin na offend tayo, we have a way to redress our complaint po. Yun po ang nakikita kong
Tama naman po yung comment niyo, sir. Very in actual and real life yan talaga yung problema, no, and experience. Ang siguro what the law envisions, no, is for kaya the law imposes a local mechanism to be developed, is for all of these concerns to be acknowledged and to try to find a way to respond. Sa law, ang sinasabi lang, there should be a process of inhibition. So, because if that happens, kunyari, the CODI, one of the members of the CODI is a close friend of the respondent, halimbawa yung inirereklamo, there should be a way in the CODI for that person to be replaced by another person that is more or less objective. So yun lang po yung sinasabi ng CODI because the CODI realizes also that there may be instances where people are close to each other and so therefore mako-compromise yung procedure if hindi pala fair yung mga tao na nasa loob kasi one way or another related sila sa any of the parties, no? So and therefore the CODI, the members of, there should be a way in the CODI where you have set of members but you have parang a roster para kung papalitan may ipapalit ka from the roster that has undertaken the same training, etc., etc. So, pag nag-appoint ka ng CODI, hindi lang kung 5 yan, hindi lang sila, dapat meron kang substitution, ready for substitution, kumbaga, na set, naka-standby, and that may replace, no, just in case, and the complainant or the respondent for that matter should know that they can request for changing of the members of the CODI. They can request for inhibition, no, yung mga ganon. So itong mga ang CODI naman po at ang Code of Conduct is a living document, meaning if you see that your Code of Conduct now doesn't work because you need pala procedures pa for when this happens, no? And you will only know that when you actually use it, di ba? When you actually use the document, dun mo makikita na, naku, wala pala tayong procedure pag ito yung nangyari or pag ito yung nangyari. Then you can amend your CODI and put your procedure accordingly. Ang point lang, your Code of Conduct should be responsive to the situation that is present in your area, that may not be present in another school, no, or in another education setting, but is unique to your education setting, no. So yun. So i-review lang natin yung CODI from time to time para maging proper ito, and baka you also ask the evaluation of the students or the leaders, the leadership, no, whether or not the CODI is helpful to them, or para maging responsive talaga yung ating policy and not just leave it to may nakasulat and that's it, no, but not working naman pala.
Thank you so much once again, Dean Bert, and of course, Attorney Getty once again. And thank you to all of our participants. Ma'am, last question. kapag gusto po namin kayo i-contact or gusto namin kayong i-email or magkaroon ng communication with you with regards to this topic, paano po namin kayo ma-reach out?
Opo, alam po nila Sir Noel at ni
Sige
Sir
po.
Dan ang way to contact me. So,
Yes,
they-
noted, ma'am. So, may nagtanong po kasi dito kung paano kayo makokontak. So, now we know na you can coordinate with our Director Noel for this information. Maraming salamat po. So, once again, ladies and gentlemen, that's our open forum for today. To our first topic, which is the Safe Spaces Act or the Republic Act 1131-3. Once again, let's give virtual clap to our ever dynamic and thank you so much, ma'am, to that very comprehensive topic or discussion of our topic for this morning. Maraming salamat po. But we're not yet done. We're not yet done, ma'am, because we're now going to award the certificate for you. Please, may I request our technical team to kindly show our certificate. And let me read the citation on behalf of the organizers. And once again, maraming salamat po for attending our morning session. We still have the afternoon session. Kaya naman, for those who are asking for the certificate and attendance, mamaya po namin yan ibibigay sa inyo. Yung attendance link or the evaluation link through the Google form para isahan lang yung pagbibigay natin ng evaluation sa ating dalawang speakers. So now, let me read the citation. Republic of the Philippines, Bicol University Graduate School in cooperation with the Center for Gender and Development, Bicol University Open University, Bicol University Alright, hindi ko na kailangan sabihin, but nagbe-virtual clap na ang ating mga participants. We still have 127. Napakarami pa rin na nag-stay sa ating Zoom. So now, maraming salamat po. So I know every one of you are now excited for our lunch, but please, kumain lang kayo ng marami dahil mamaya meron pa tayong isa pa na topic na isa din po na napapanahon, which is of course the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act. So sabi nga po kanina ni attorney ay 18 days ang Pilipinas po ang may pinakamatagal na selebrasyon with regards to the VAUSI. So ngayon, itong ating afternoon session, isa na po ito sa pag-uusapan natin. Together with our very own, of course, siya po ang isa sa mga faculty members sa BU College of Law. We have attorney Glenn Ian P. Pertibas. So magkita-kita po tayo mamaya sa alauna para po sa ating afternoon session. And once again, I am Floyd, and this is the forum of the Safe Spaces Act, or Republic Act 1131-3, and the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act, or RA 9262. But before we say goodbye, on muna natin yung mga cameras natin for the photo opportunities. Importante.
to walk with pride, for He will always see united. Although we tread on distant lands, we all shall cherish what you've taught us, that you wholeheartedly gave forth. Bigo University, burning torch of wisdom, fount of courage, hope, and love, seed of truth and light. Bigo University, burning torch of wisdom, fount of courage, hope, and love, seed of truth and light.
Recording stopped.